Welcome to Leader Lifestyle Hub. And we have set the target of completing 200 book summaries in the entire year. On this journey, we came here on the number of book summary 27. Let me share screen. And let us go for the book summary in the terms of mind map. I hope so my screen is getting visible. Great. Let us see the synopsis first, and we will discuss few questions and answers, and we will discuss about key takeaways and top 3 lessons of this book. Daring Greatly, written by Brené Brown. Let us see the small synopsis. To live a shame-free life, we must learn to love ourselves unconditionally and to rely on our inherent worthiness when interacting with friends, family, and colleagues. In doing so, we dare to be vulnerable because failure and rejection cannot diminish our sense of worthiness. By embracing our vulnerability, by putting ourselves out there and being engaged, we can establish deeper relationships with others and change our private and work lives for the better. Great. Now, let us go for the question and answer. I'll be asking you questions. Share your opinions, whatever you have on that. Then afterwards, we'll discuss the answers of that. First question. How does shame work? Sony, over to you. How does shame works?
Shame works in the sense if I feel short of anything where I have not been up to my value system, there I feel shame. And then there we have to, that also tells me that wherever I am, that's not my place. I have to change my perspective, my actions. This is what you're trying to get from me. I don't know what exactly.
Yeah. If you feel ashamed of anything, then how you are going to react on that, or how it is going to affect your life?
Oh, okay. Of course, I'm gonna shrink in the moment I feel that shame. Yes, there will be a shrink in personality, but at the same time, it indicates, it tells me that, okay, if this is this, what is actually I want to feel, and what I want to feel, I take actions for that. If I don't want to feel shame, then what I want to feel.
Great. Now let us listen the answers from this book, Daring Greatly. What are the answers for this question? How does shame work? Shame is the fear of social disconnection. If you feel a social disconnection and you feel little shame over there, means if suppose someone disliked your video, someone disliked your post in the social media, you automatically feel little ashamed why this person is doing like this. It's only human, but harmful nonetheless. So shame is part of our current culture, and it promotes a fear of unworthiness, of never having been enough. So these are the definitions that we have received from the book, Daring Greatly. So shame is the fear of social disconnection. Okay. Now let us move on to the next question. What is vulnerability and why is it the solution to the problem of shame? Ravikiran, over to you.
So,
what is vulnerability?
I don't know the meaning of vulnerability. Vulnerability means nothing but hello?
Yeah, go ahead.
What is meaning of vulnerability?
Vulnerability means going boldly. What you call it is like if you faced any issues or failures in your life and telling that failures as it is and revealing your bad side of your life. Means by daring, you are revealing yourself.
Okay. Yeah. Accepting the facts. Accepting the facts.
Yeah, accepting the facts. And you can say that standing to your own truth at that moment.
Okay.
Correct. So, and why vulnerability is the solution to the problem of shame?
Yeah, 100%.
But why?
Why? So that now you come out from that
Yeah,
come out from that zone,
exactly.
come out from
Exactly.
the shame. If
You
you
come
accept.
out from that fear or comfort zone. Okay, let us
Okay.
see.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like by covering your mistakes, you are not never going to resolve your mistake, right? You'll never correct it. Like that, if you don't stand vulnerable, you won't accept your truth at that moment, and then you won't know where to lead yourself.
Exactly. Vulnerability is the core of all emotions and by no means a sign of weakness. And by exhibiting the vulnerability, you will have no weakness at all. Instead of ignoring our vulnerability, we should embrace it to improve ourselves and our relationships. Being vulnerable is great, but how do we embrace it is the matters. So, like being accepting the truth is one step, and acting according to that is the second step of the vulnerability. Okay, great. Now, the third question is also the same. How do we get from shame to vulnerability? Suppose a YouTuber is there, or YouTube watcher is there, subscriber is there. He watched your video and he put vulgar comments in the video. You feel shame about that. How do you turn that shame towards vulnerability? Sony.
All right. So I'm thinking here the video is fine, but his perception is like that.
Yeah.
And he is using foul language.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yeah.
So,
that is
Yeah.
happened. That is shame happened.
This means that his mature level is, we cannot consider his maturity levels.
Exactly.
Yeah. Because
what?
that we cannot assume that he is immature.
Great, that is fine. But how do you get from this shame to the vulnerability?
All
You, I
right.
don't
So
care
if
about it.
suppose there is any mistake and I see what he is saying and there is an area of improvement, I accept that yes, that can be improved. And suppose the other areas where you have not he has not noticed that that was of value, then I will ask in the group saying that do you find other value apart from that, whatever the area of improvement. That is how I will get through the actual understanding of the mind and clear, which is required to be clear, and be firm for what areas are good and be firm at it, not hurt myself by that.
Great. Superb answers. Let us see what does that book conveys us for this question. How do we get from shame to the vulnerability? By understanding the verbal and verbalizing our shame, we build a resilience to it and experience others' empathy instead. Sometimes that comment is genuine, or sometimes you need to get improved from that comment. Means, if suppose somebody shared the comment on your video, you need to take it either reactive way or responsive way. If you take it responsive way, it will help you to improve yourself. If we feel satisfied with what we are and what we have, we will dare to stop hiding our vulnerability. This is what I am expecting for this answer. Like whatever you have, if you feel satisfied, you will never dare to go forward. So if you want to go forward, try to improve yourself with the help of feedbacks that you receive. Okay?
Yes, wonderful.
Great. Let us see the fourth question. How does a culture of vulnerability benefit our school, our colleges, our work, our education, and our families? Sony?
Yeah, because then only the scope of improvement is there, right? Then only
Exactly.
the scope of trust is there. There is a scope of well-wishers. There is a scope of you setting boundaries from people who are unnecessarily troubling you. So there is always a scope.
Exactly. Great. Let us see the answer for this. An atmosphere of shame is toxic at any school or workplace. So if you have the atmosphere of shame, if your teacher beats a student, the students will get shamed in that particular time, and they will worry about going to school next time. So we need to create the atmosphere of vulnerability. Leaders in education, work, and society as a whole should combat disengagement by encouraging vulnerability over shame. Instead of shaming one person on behalf of others, you need to encourage that vulnerability, so to enhance and improve that person and that qualities. Engaged and involved parenting in a shame-free environment will help children develop a sense of their worthiness. Like in the parenting, as a parent, to take care of the child is a very crucial task, and it is a very tough task, if I say. And if you enhance and engage with your child and involve with your child in a shame-free environment, means you need to create a shame-free environment where they can share anything. Even though they fail, even though they made a mistake, they should be able to share with you. If they don't have that sharing, then they feel into the shame. So shame to vulnerability is the great way to share. So develop the children to have a sense of sharing. Okay. Now let us see the key takeaways and top 3 lessons and dig deeper into the daring greatly.
I quickly want to add something here.
Yes.
That shame-free environment is so very important. That's why we had read a book, right, where mistakes were awarded.
Exactly.
So that is what I implement with my child. When he returns from the school, I ask him, what mistake did you do?
Great.
And we celebrate on Wednesdays the mistakes, and today is that day.
Super.
So clear off that shame and fear of failure totally. That is the idea, to give him, he feels safe to take risk and move ahead.
Yes, exactly. I would like to add one more point. If same mistake has been repeated, you need to remind them to not repeat it again. And every time they need to come up with the new failures or new mistakes, so that they will learn and enhance more in the faster pace.
Okay? Yeah. They cannot be boring with the same mistakes. The code of honor is every day new mistake.
Yes, exactly. Great. Awesome. Let us see the key takeaways and top 3 lessons of this book. Okay. Key takeaways. Again, it will be a few points will be repeated, but let us see what are that key takeaways. Shame is the fear of the social disconnection. Shame is part of our current culture, and it promotes a fear of unworthiness, of never having or being enough. Vulnerability is the core of all emotions and by no means a sign of weakness. Instead of ignoring our vulnerability, we should embrace it to improve ourselves and our relationships. By understanding and verbalizing our shame, we build a resilience to it and experience others' empathy instead. If we feel satisfied with what we are and what we have, we will dare to stop our vulnerability. An atmosphere of shame is toxic at any workplace. Leader in education, work, and society as a whole should combat disengagement. Means they should engage and they should create the environment of sharing. Engaged and involved parenting in a shame-free environment will help children a sense of their worthiness. This is all we have covered from the question and answers. Let us see the top 3 lessons. Vulnerability means it's a strength. It's not a weakness. And understand and verbalize your shame to make it go away. Children can only become who you are. So become a role model for your children. Let us see the lessons, top 3 lessons in deep right now. Let us see few information about the author, targeted audience, synopsis, and then move on to the top 3 lessons. About the author. The author name is Brené Brown. She is a social worker, researcher, doctorate, and explorer of all things human, especially topics or rather than feelings. like courage, vulnerability, and shame. She works on these three things: courage, vulnerability, and shame. Her TEDx talk sits smack behind Simon Sinek's Start With Why. On the top, TEDx talks of all-time list with the 25 million views at that time. You can feel that in her talks and writing. She's not a bullshit artist. She has seen the dark side of her own life. And she's here to tell us not only that we have to do too, but that we can do, and that it will be okay to have that mistakes and failures in our life. Let us see the targeted audience. The 15-year-old shy schoolboy who is being bullied in the schools or colleges. The 25-year-old mother of this boy, shy boy. And anyone who never talks about what they are ashamed of. Let us see the small synopsis. It's a book about having the courage to be vulnerable in a world where everyone wants to appear strong, confident, and like they know what they are doing. Let us hear from the author, Brené Brown. Courage starts with showing up and letting ourselves be seen. Courage starts with showing up and letting ourselves be seen. Let us see the small review. I think the reason Brené's TEDx talk and work respond with so many people is that she went through all the struggles she describes about herself. When she first discovered that vulnerability was the core of any life, especially any good life, she broke down. Researchers and scientists aren't exactly out to be vulnerable. They are trying to measure things so they can predict the future better. That's quite the opposite. So it took some time for her to deal with this new solution or situation as well as new data. A wonderful person to learn from. She's a wonderful person. And let us move on to that. This book, one of her 3 New York Times bestsellers, explains how vulnerability is at the core of all feelings, not just bad ones like fear, anxiety, shame, but also good ones like love, joy, and passion. She says that we could all use a little more vulnerability in our lives because it's neither bad nor good. It is just as is, and embracing it means being courageous. Let us see the top 3 lessons. Vulnerability means strength, not weakness. Understand and verbalize your shame to make it go away. Children can only become who you are, so be a role model. Are you willing to open up and let us this book into your life? Let us see all the Brené's ideas into deep. Lesson number 1. If you can be vulnerable, it means you are strong. First, Brené makes 2 core points about vulnerability. Vulnerability is not good or is not bad. It's not a black and white subject. It's just a part of your life, and if you experience it, it means you are able to feel the things. Allowing yourself to actually be vulnerable is a sign of strength and courage. It has to be courage to come forward and share all the dark side of your life. It's a lot easier to avoid the things that make you vulnerable rather than lean into them. But that also means we are missing out on a lot of good things. Let us take an example. If you have ever loved someone, you know that being in love makes you very vulnerable. You allow someone into your heart and giving them incredible power, which includes the power to hurt you. Sometimes they might hurt you. It's not every time on cloud 9. But only if you accept this state of vulnerability do you have a shot at all the love, joy, and kindness you might experience from that relationship. This means vulnerability is not just the source of pain and grief, but also the root of many positive emotions. Let us see the experience of the Nick, the 4 Minutes books author or founder. Nick getting coffee with a girl he haven't really seen in 6 years today. 6 years means there was a gap between Nick and his girlfriend, 6 years gap, and he met a same girl in the coffee shop. He was in love with her in his high school, and it scares that shift out of Nick to see her again. After 6 years, he saw his girlfriend, but if he didn't go, he will never know why. And so his best bet is to go there, be vulnerable, show himself, and see what's to come. So this was the experience of the Nick. Second, you could hide from the things that makes you vulnerable. The responsibility for your project at work, the girl or guy you haven't seen in forever, the art you want to create, but you know that's a cop out. Leaning into vulnerability is something only the strong and the truly courageous people can do this. So remember this powerful lesson. If you can be vulnerable at any stage performance, it means you are strong. Never feel that by sharing your dark side of your life, you will become weak. You will get strong if you get vulnerable. Let us see the second lesson. Build a resilience to shame by understanding it and saying it out loud. What is worse than completely bombing a speaking gig? Being ashamed about bombing a speaking gig and never doing one again. There is a quote that goes like this: failure is temporary. Giving up is what makes it permanent. This is a powerful statement. Write it down on your digital notes or physical notes. Failure is temporary. Giving up is what makes it permanent. Shame is what makes you give up. So if you are facing failures, it's completely fine. But if you are feeling ashamed of failure and if you are giving up from the challenge, then it makes your failure permanent. So here are the few statements. I am ashamed that I was not there for my son when he was little. I am ashamed I didn't try harder at being a good wedding planner. I am ashamed at work because my co-workers talk about me behind my back. These are the few statements few people explain about their lives. Have you thought any of these or any other variations? I bet you have. You might feel ashamed in your life. But have you said them to anyone? Try it out. I just did this morning. There is a certain level of ridicule to be found in every single shame you express. Pinpointing what actually makes you feel ashamed and saying it out loud takes a lot of power from shame, which is nothing but courage. Nobody wants to talk about shame. It's uncomfortable. But the less you do, the more power it has. Instead, pull at it, drag it out, throw it into the light, and address it directly. You will see that things aren't as worrisome as they seem, and that you can live past failure. So build a resilience to shame by understanding it and saying it out loud. So never hide your failures or shame into yourself. Try to share it out or say it out. Let us see the most powerful lesson again. Lesson number 3, be a role model for your future or for your kids. It's the only way they learn from you. Whether you have kids or whether you don't have. I thought this was worth taking away. Your children can only inherit qualities you possess yourself. So if you are sloppy, your children will be sloppy. If you are organized, your children will be organized. And if you are constantly shame-ridden, you will traumatize your kids by making them feel the same. If you are watching mobile all the time, your kids follow you. If you watch the TV, your kids follow you. If you are being bullied, threatened, or otherwise traumatized as a kid, you know that most childhood trauma comes from shame. Shame about an event or behavior, experience, past memories, even just about how others have treated us. Therefore, it's your job to make your home and your family a shame-free zone. It's the only way your kids will grow up feeling worthy, feeling loved, and able to truly be themselves. Instead of talking about values like honesty, courage, and ambition, instead of talking them, live them, follow them, follow them by yourself so that your kids follow you from yourself. Be honest, be courageous, be ambitious. Means instead of saying, do it. The best thing you can do for your kids is, born or not, is to be a role model. Make yourself as a target or milestone, be a role model for your future. It's all that parenting they need. So the parenting needs not in training them to get good scores, but training them to be vulnerable, be courageous, and you to become a role model for your kids. Great. Thank you so much for joining today's book summary. Share your lessons in the comments below, and I will be going through each and every comment.